All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Helm meetup for December 19th, 2024. This is a CNCF project. This is a CNCF meeting, so it follows the CNCF guidelines for code of conduct. And if you don't like being recorded, please drop off now, but we can get started. Do we have any announcements? Going once.
Yes.
Matt Farina, please.
So, last Wednesday, we was the normal plan to send out a release of Helm, but we didn't actually have anything for the patch release, so I did not cut anything. And then right afterwards, a dependency CVE came in and said, hey, there's something. Now, it didn't really affect us, but to wait 5 weeks while people just kept bugging us with emails about it, I'll get hit up in Slack, I'll get emailed, and we'll get issues filed. We cut a release that bumped the dependency.
I think we talked about that last week, right? That
Yep.
You're going to do this thing and did it.
And it went out. And all it did was bump the one dependency that did that, along with the Kubernetes group of dependencies as well. That's it.
Thank you, Matt. I have one quick announcement. JetBrains has sponsored us for some of the maintainers and core maintainers for Helm. There'll be a license for Goland, I believe. So you can DM me any of the maintainers who are interested. I put it in our Slack channel, but I want to make it official here. DM me for those codes. And then I need to figure out a way with core maintainers on how to keep those codes safe and how to kind of put them out. I'll take that up with Matt later as a take offline item.
I do have one quick question, Scott. You may know this. I know we had LastPass. Do we have one password as a team?
So we were using Key. You know how I set up Keybase for us to do that a while back.
But we also had LastPass too at one point.
Yeah. I had an open issue for getting an open source license for us for that, but then we had talked about that a while back and we decided we didn't really need it, but I'm totally down to open that again.
Yeah, well, we had LastPass. I know that. And somewhere
sorry. For one password.
Okay. Yeah, we probably want to get that just because we've got all these credentials and they're being stored over in a system that is no longer being actively maintained. And we need to share them amongst maintainers and people with credentials. So that's probably a good idea. And given what's happened with LastPass in the past, I would prefer to use another system.
Yeah, I know a number of CNCF projects are using one password. And I can just reopen. I'll go ahead and reopen the issue.
Okay, that'd be great.
And I'll keep us all posted, and I'll let you know, Robert, too.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, sir.
Any more announcements before we continue? All right, let's move into discussions. Ingi, the floor is yours. We're talking about Helm schema.
I saw that, and that was something I had last week, and I just had questions on it that I actually got answered after the meeting. So I will relinquish that, and you don't have to bump it. I will bring this up in a future meeting when I have some progress on it.
Awesome, that sounds great.
Yep.
Matt, you're up next with the version 3.17 work to do. Floor is yours, sir.
Okay, so we had a number of things that were merged into the main branch that are scheduled to go out in 3.17 and but they haven't been backported to the dev v3 branch yet, which means when we cut the release candidate, the Monday, the 6th, I want to say it is, of January, if it's not in, it's not going in the next 3 minor. And so we've got to start those backport pull requests and get that going in order for that to happen. I plan on doing some of that today and tomorrow. I got caught up on the Go bump to get the Kubernetes one in because Golang CI lint is actually failing once we bump Go due to it using, it looks like, too many resources of the runner. And so that is turning into a problem. And so I'm trying to figure out how to limit the resources of Golang CI lint right now so it doesn't cause the runner to explode. Working on something as a workaround there. It turns out this is not an uncommon problem. It does it in other areas and other projects have reported it, but there is no nice solution yet. But we do need to get that stuff backported if we want it to go into 317. Just because it landed in Maine doesn't mean it automatically goes out. So if folks want to start taking those things, there's a label for it that says it needs a V3 backport. If you all want to grab those and start doing it, that would be awesome. We need to get that stuff backported.
So, thank you, Matt. Next discussion item is with George. Is the dev V3 branch depend about working correctly? George, the floor is yours,
seem
sir.
to be.
All right.
Nope.
I wrote it as a question, but I guess it's more of a statement. It doesn't seem to be working correctly. I don't know why. Is it worth trying to get it to work correctly, or are we just gonna? Okay.
Yes. I think that, is there anyone on the call who objects? All right, then I think we need to address it then.
Yeah, this is more. I mean, I added the configuration to try and bump dependencies on the dev3 branch because I figured that was better than trying to backport dependency PRs. But yeah, it hasn't worked for some reason. So it was more of a question of like, do we want this? And the answer seems to be yes. So I'll spend the effort in making it work.
Thank you. I just noticed it the other day. It occurred to me, and yeah.
All right. Next on the list, Matt Farina. When is the next meeting? I don't know. Can you tell us, Matt?
Well, this is one of those things we wanted to talk about so that way we can inform people on when the next meeting is. I suspect we're not going to do one next week because of people not being around. I know I will not be here. It is the day after Christmas. And so many people at different places take it off. And we traditionally don't have something that week. Then there's the following week, which is 2 days after New Year's, or sorry, the day after New Year's Day. And a lot of times that's a very slow week. So the question is, do we want to have something on the 2nd, or do we want to wait all the way until the 9th? And I won't be back until the 9th for a meeting. Well, I guess I could be here on the 2nd if we have one.
Personally, I can be here on the 2nd as well if we want to push it. It's not like I have a life.
I would be planning to join. I'd probably be time off. But I'd still probably join because I think we probably have things to organize for hips and
sure.
Yep. Right.
So the next meeting we'll do the 2nd.
Sounds good.
I'll do that.
If
All
I'm not
right.
going to make it, I will post. And it might be a good idea for people who have said they're going to make it to to post if they're not going to make it, so that we can decide whether we keep it or.
Yes. So those of you who said you're going to make it, if not, and including myself in here, if I can't make it, I'll post. And then if not, we'll update the document to say if it does get called off. And we'll probably share our social media, stuff like that. Okay. So no meeting next week.
Correct. That's all for discussions. Does anyone else have any other discussions that might not have gotten in?
I have a few things.
All right, Austin, the floor is yours.
Sweet. I guess I'll start with the smaller one. I mean, they're both not too big, but I have a draft PR. It definitely it needs a lot more work to move from errors, to move from GitHub/package/errors to normal Go errors. I'm assuming that's something we're cool with in Helm 4.
Definitely.
Okay, cool. And then of that, the PR is going to be way too big. It's going to be 100 files. Do you want me to break it up by directory, or is that unacceptable? Okay, cool.
For this one, I'm okay with something that large. I don't know if another maintainer will have issues with it, but a lot of it is just we're replacing one package with another, and we'll have to scan it all. But
Yep.
Yeah.
I was doing notes, so I missed the first sentence, but there is already a giant PR for converting to standard errors. Was that the?
I'm not sure if it's the same one. Austin,
It might be me.
Can you put your PR link it in our chat here so we can pick it up?
Yes.
Yeah, there have been a couple attempts at this in the past, and I have no idea where any of that is today.
I know I didn't see any links in the issue, or maybe I missed it. But
I just saw one. I saw one. Yeah, that's the one I was looking at.
oh yeah, there already was one.
Yeah, there's one ongoing, and the one thing that was contentious was the fact that now we lose stack tracing for anyone who uses this Helm as a library. So the SDK users. So I think that was the only contentious issue that was raised in discussions.
Yeah, I think we need to drop it. And so if there's not an easy way to get stack tracing back, then that should be an acceptable loss for Helm version 4. The package we're currently using is archived and no longer maintained.
Yeah.
So we do need to find our way off of it, and Helm v4 is the right time to do it. It is not something we should be using at this point.
So also
sorry, I was going to say the PR I linked in the Zoom chat. This is the one I was thinking of, which I've reviewed and I've approved. Is that the one that there might be another one?
I just dropped another one, so yeah, looks like everyone is doing it.
My bad. I saw the issue. I don't think it was linked in the issue, but I should have checked the PRs too. But yeah, I think I'll just close mine in that case then.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. And hopefully you didn't spend too much effort.
No, I was just like listening to a podcast, doing some finals. And then for case status. So I really liked you guys' comments, George and Matt. Appreciate you guys reviewing that. Let me put that in the chat as well. Hopefully I'll get around the next week or so to like making a draft implementation of it. One thing like about backwards compatibility is I was kind of curious. I think it's probably reasonable to have like, weight options, either legacy or case status or, current or something like that. I guess have both of them in there and, put that behind an interface. I think the question it sounded like, George, you had was, is the default going to be case status or is the default going to be, the current way of doing it? I kind of like my gut tells me and kind of what I've seen from people using case status, which I've seen with the product I maintain, Zarf, is that it works pretty seamlessly. But I was wondering if you guys have like a position or a way to test that or see like, hey, like, I mean, I haven't looked too extensively at your test suite or end-to-end test suite. But I was kind of curious how we evaluate that.
Yeah, our status weighting is pretty legacy, and a bunch of it needs to be gutted and redone. A simple example is we can still test for V1 beta 1 deployments. And you know how long ago those have been ripped out of Kubernetes? We need to redo a bunch of that code, and it's very limited to just core things. Do we keep the same status checking, or do we gut it and use case status, but entirely shield end users from it? And then we can alter it and update it as we need to and use case status as part of it or not, depending on what we learn. How much of this do we want to put into users' hands to know what case status is and know what something else is versus we deal with the business logic and just use case status to help us make that happen?
So I believe this might be big enough to wrap into a HIP, or should we just try to continue the conversation today?
So he has a HIP and he linked it.
Oh, he does.
There is a HIP for it, yes. And so the question is, how do we want to approach it? Because there's two ideas here. One exposes the current system or case status to a user, and they can pick, and there's one by default, or one where we just kind of wrap it and use case status. And if case status is insufficient for checking, then we can add our own logic in there, do other things with it, but not expose case status itself. And I'm against exposing case status because it hasn't hit a 1.0 release yet, which means there can be API breaking changes and other things, and we don't want to expose that to our users.
I was going to say the same thing. I think for Helm 3, at least, there's no downside that I can see to improving the weight. But I don't think, I mean, we're looking forward to making extending plugins for Helm 4 to make Helm 4 a lot more extensible. I think we could probably, in terms of exposing or giving users options, we could probably delay until that.
Yeah, and I think this HIP, at least as I wrote it, is intended for just introduce case status in Helm 4 and not backport anything to Helm 3.
Oh.
Yeah, we should not be doing anything to Helm 3 at this point because that is more work than we've got time to do for Helm 4 and Helm 3. So let's just focus on Helm 4.
Cool. And I missed the meeting where you guys were talking about like the overarching plan and timeline. What was the timeline for like when we want to release Helm 4?
The goal is end of 2025, and we're going to cut off new feature stuff going in the summer. I've got to look at the date. It's July, August, somewhere around there. We're actually going to cut off new features at that point. And so if it doesn't land by then it's probably going to have to wait till Helm 5.
Cool. I think that's pretty reasonable.
For the compatibility concerns, my take is like people use Helm in a gazillion different places, and someone will have a problem with the change in status mechanism. How much of a problem? Do we need to allow them to fall back? That's kind of the question. Or do we say you should opt into K status, or another option would be, do we say K status experimental, go play with it, and if it works for you, give us feedback, but we still default to the old existing mechanism? I don't know. There's various ways we could approach this. I think we should probably err on the side of caution.
Well, part of this is whatever we go out as the default with for Helm 4, we are not going to change during Helm 4's life cycle. And so if K status is not, then almost nobody's going to end up using it except for advanced users. So if we get this thing in by July or August, we're going to have time for people to test it and beat it up, and then we can go deal with it at that point. But if we do add much of a switch in there, then we are putting extra cognitive understanding on users. Like they've got to understand, what is K status? How does it work? It's not just Helm taking care of this for me. It's now adding advanced features and who's going to use it versus anything else.
Yeah. I believe that
anyone so that is a user experience thing. Yeah.
I agree. I believe that anyone that would do that, like with a plugin, for example, if we're thinking about that for on the Helm 4 side, we still have to flesh that out. That would be for only like very advanced users, if at all. So I definitely don't think we should foreground that.
And we do need to update, even if we kept our current system around, we would need to do some overhaul of it because it does that. So if we did it, I would want something better maintained to be the default. And then if anything, you have a fallback in Helm version 4 to the old system that you have to pass in as a flag in order to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go forward with a draft implementation like with that in mind.
Yeah.
Also, random, but can I add? Is it only maintainers who add to the discussion before the meeting, or is that like an open thing too?
No, you can add to it.
Where is it?
The document?
Yeah, it's in the meeting invite, but here's a link to it here.
Sweet.
All right. Yeah, it's also in the Helm Dev Slack channel at the header.
All right. So are we good with discussions? Shall we move on? All right. George, another HIP review sessions, ? Floor is yours, sir.
I think the one we had last week was relatively successful. Do we want to do another one?
Sure.
People have time.
100%. Loved it.
Yeah. Sign me up. I'm in.
Okay. Times then. I assume we probably want to avoid the weekend. Tomorrow could be an option if someone has.
Last week we did a Friday, and there was talk of doing a Monday, which I didn't make. Did you guys do a Monday follow-up after last Friday?
Me and Evans did do a small Monday.
Okay.
And
remind me what time we did yesterday, or sorry, last week on Friday. Do you remember?
It was midday Pacific, if I remember. Is my memory good? I don't know. Okay, so let me suggest, do we want to go early? I could do 8 a.m. Pacific and get it done tomorrow, or do we want more like midday, which is kind of getting late in the UK for Evans, but we have to like juggle everybody's availability.
I'll take your 8 a.m.
I'm free noon. Wrong day. Sorry. Shit.
Sorry.
We're talking USC, so we're talking between time zones. So we've got 8 a.m. Pacific, and Robert, you said noon Eastern?
Yeah, noon Eastern. I'm free the rest of the day, except for Helm to noon.
Noon Eastern, so that's
5 p.m. for you.
Yeah,
Evans.
that's fine.
Yeah, that's
fine.
9 a.m. Yeah, so
okay.
Yeah, I can't do noon, unfortunately.
I can't either.
Can we do a poll or like a if we need some, I think we want to do this in an ongoing way. Can we do a doodle poll or something like that?
Okay, I will.
But
So
you won't
let's-
get it for
let's-
tomorrow. So because there's
Yeah, I was gonna
tomorrow
say,
and then
let's
there's
set up-
times for next year. If we don't decide on tomorrow right now, you're not going to get a time for tomorrow for people here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could do. I could
My
do
afternoon is going to
hours.
be hit or miss. So the rest of you pick a time, and if I can make it, I will.
So noon tomorrow seems to be the best option, and then I agree going forward, Scott. We can try and
Okay.
find a more specific time.
I can
Okay,
join
I
for an hour
will-
at noon. That was noon,
Awesome.
which,
Noon Eastern,
Eastern,
so
9 a.m.
9
Pacific.
oh, perfect. Yeah, I can join for 2 hours at noon Eastern.
George, are you going to send out an invite for that, or how do you communicate? How are you going to communicate?
I will put it on the Helm Dev channel. I don't
Yeah.
know if I'll send out an invite because I'd have to collect everybody's emails, and then
That's fine.
it goes into people's personal calendars and things like that. So
No worries.
it's probably easier just to remember and set up your own invite if you want to.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know last week we did 3 p.m. Eastern. Is that too late for your folks? Is that the reason that we're
Yeah,
I have a conflict then.
okay?
Plus it's 10
Right.
p.m. GMT.
So, all right. So that's any other hip review items? Shout outs. Anyone got anything? Social media amplifications. All right, let's do some assignments for next call. The next call is January 2nd. So I need a moderator. Anybody?
I can
We'll
aim
make
to
it
moderate.
Robert. We can make it Robert. Oh,
Who most likely thinks they're going to make it? I'm 90%.
I'll be
COVID
able to
events,
make
it's
it.
vacation.
I apologize. I was 3 minutes late today. I had a little bit of a tech glitch right at the end. So otherwise,
so
I've just been here for
Scott, you want it?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Notes. George, you want to take those again?
Okay, I'll do notes.
Issue triage between now and then. Who do we have? Evans?
Yep.
PR reviews.
Yeah, me too.
Same.
And core maintainers to be present at the next meeting.
Likely myself.
I'll be there.
I can moderate most meetings and I'm usually going to be on time because I don't have a lot of conflicts. But I would need training for, so maybe Scott or Matt or Robert could. Maybe Scott, we could do it sometime. Just walk through it with me.
That's yeah.
Or
I would say it's not very complicated. You say that stuff at the start, and then you just run through the through the list. Like
I assume Robert was reading the announcement at the beginning. Like maybe
It
he had
wasn't written.
memorized.
It wasn't written. So like I just kind of like yeah.
You're just a great MC. You're just like
I
So generally we've had Helm maintainers do the emceeing or do the hosting of the meeting.
That's fine.
Something that we is really a policy of ours. This is probably a question for you, Matt, because of is it something that's been a policy of ours, or is that just something we've just ended up doing?
We've always done it. I don't think there's any written policy on it.
Yeah.
Usually, you want to be careful who you give out the host controls to, because the CNCF has had malicious activity in the past. So you don't just want to hand it out to anybody. And so that's probably where the policy came from. It's not that I've got any issues with Amy or anything like that.
Right, sure.
It's
I'm just planning on being
probably
in all
why
of
we
them.
ended up doing it.
So as an emergency, I could always do it.
Yep.
It doesn't matter to me. Less work.
And we only give out the host code to maintainers. We don't make that information public for security purposes.
Right.
And so somebody would have to make you the host, which is fine.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, cool. Just checking.
Yeah,
Right.
I did moderating a lot when I was not a maintainer.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I still don't have the host code, so it's super secret.
All right. We're about at time. Does anyone have anything else before we let everyone go for the long break that we're going to have, the holiday season? Go once, twice. All right. Oh, hold on,
See you
Angie.
tomorrow at 12 Eastern, right? That's what we
Yep.
landed on.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
Tomorrow.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
All right.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.